Hi guys! I've been told that you are inquiring about ecosystems, so let me tell you a bit about it. Ecosystems by Jim Pipe. Whether you're in the park, out for a walk, or swimming in a lake, there is an incredible world of wildlife all around you. This book looks at how plants, animals, and people live with and affect each other. It also shows what you can do to help protect the wildlife in your area. You can find plants and animals just about everywhere. They live in ponds, woods, and hedges, even in old walls and garbage dumps. These places are our habitats. Habitats are homes that provide living things with the food, water, and shelter they need. Next time you lift up a big stone, see what lives in the habitat underneath it. Why not take a look at habitats such as streams, meadows, and woods near your house or school? There are a lot of animals and plants to look for in the air, on the ground, and underwater. Always ask an adult to walk around with you, and be especially careful near water. Water can be dangerous even for good swimmers. Smaller habitats are part of bigger habitats. A patch of grass can be a small habitat, but it may be in the woods. The woods are a larger habitat and home to a wider group of animals such as deer and squirrels. Habitats are made up of living and non-living things. A pond habitat, above, includes the air that animals breathe, the water they swim in, the plants growing in the pond, and rocks and mud at the bottom of the pond. Many plants and animals have learned to survive in towns. Birds make their nest on tall buildings, garbage dumps are a good habitat for rats. Other towns' habitats are riverbanks and parks. Every habitat is home to a group of plants and animals called a community. Together, a habitat and its community are known as an ecosystem. For example, tree is a simple ecosystem. In community, it's made up of the birds, insects, snails, moths, and fungi that live on it. All the living things in an ecosystem depend on each other for food. In any ecosystem, plants use the sun's energy and water to make food. This energy is passed on to plant-eating animals that are eaten by meat-eating animals, called predators. Food chains are a way to show how a series of organisms are linked together in the feeding habits. The smaller animals is typically eaten by a larger one, which in turn is eaten by an even larger organism. If you look closely, you will be amazed by the number of animals and plants living in an old wall. Plants use runners and suckers to climb on the wall. Bricks and bushes provide shelter for mice, lizards, and birds. Snails, wasps, and ants live in cracks in the wall. Slugs and woodlice live in damp areas below the wall. Some of the most interesting ecosystems in your local area are ponds and lakes. The water in lakes and ponds is usually still, so there are often more plants than in fast-flowing rivers and streams. Animals in the pond need each other, especially at dinner time. Tiny creatures that feed on plants are eaten by insects such as dragonflies. Insects are then eaten by frogs and fish who are food for larger fish and birds. Lakes are a good place to watch birds, such as this heron. It has a long, tiny, thin bill to spear fish and long legs to wade in deep water. Find some cover, get comfortable, keep still and quiet, and be patient. Write down details of the birds you do not know, such as their colors, markings, and shape. Then look at them up in a book about birds when you get home. Look for wildlife in and around you in your local pond. Water plants live under the surface of ponds and lakes. Some plants are attached to the bottom, while others float free. The plants provide food and shelter for creatures such as water insects, snails, frogs, and fish. Watch for dragonflies whizzing through the air, ducklings on the surface, or frogs poking their heads out of the water. If you visit a lake or pond, always take an adult with you. Water can be dangerous. Many country ponds have been drained in the last 50 years, so there are fewer habitats for pond creatures than before. Other ponds near cities and factories have become so dirty and polluted that animals can't live there anymore. As a result, backyard ponds are now an important home for newts, frogs, toads, and birds. Every tree in a forest is a home for wildlife. Deciduous trees, like oak and apple, have a wide flat leaves that are shed in fall. They also provide nuts or fruits for animals to eat. The forest floor is covered in a thick layer of dying plants and animal matter called humus. This is broken down by worms and insects, which are food for bigger animals. You can create a future habitat by planting a young tree, called a sapling. Dig a hole as wide as the roots and just deep enough for them to sit in. Place the tree carefully in the hole, then shovel in some soil and push or tread it down gently. Keep down it until the hole is filled. Water your tree daily. The forest is full of wildlife. In addition to forest flowers, such as foxgloves, look out for mosses, ferns, and mushrooms. Under the leaves, you may find beetles and centipedes, and fallen nuts and berries. Up in the trees, watch for squirrels or birds such as crows, jays, and blackbirds, or even a sleeping owl. The tide and the slope of the beach create different habitats along the seashore, where wildlife can live. On a cliff face, flowers and bushes grow and seabirds nest. At the bottom of the cliff are boulders and stones from landslides. Near the sea are rocks, pools, pebbles, or sand. Pollution is a major problem for seashore habitats. Oil spills can damage wide stretches of coastline. Storms at sea carry floating garbage from towns and ships onto beaches. This garbage is known as flotsam. It can include ropes, bottles, and even containers holding dangerous chemicals. Garbage is a danger to sea animals. Turtles can die after swallowing plastic bags that they mistake for jellyfish. Rock pools are left behind when the tide goes out. They are interesting habitats to explore, but remember to wear shoes that can't slip easily. If you are lucky, you may find sea anemone, barnacles, crabs, sea urchins, starfish, seaweed, shrimps, and small fish. When you're looking, remember that most of the animals that live in rock pools cannot survive out of water. Also, always replace rocks that you move. They are probably an animal's home. A rock pool on a beach is a small ecosystem on a bigger one. Lakes, woods, seashores, and even whole countries can be grouped together in giant ecosystems called biomes. Each biome is affected by its weather and climate. The wildlife in the biome will depend on how hot or wet it is in that part of the world. One of the most exciting habitats are the rainforests. They are found near to the equator, in countries such as Brazil and Indonesia. Here it is hot and rainy all day round, helping giant trees and many other plants to grow. The forests are also home to millions of animals such as birds, snakes, and monkeys. Rainforest contains over half of all the known wildlife in the planet. Forest plants are a vital source of raw material for medicines and food, and they help to create the oxygen that animals breathe. Wood from forest trees is used in furniture and buildings. Bananas, peanuts, coconuts, rubber, houseplants, and the cacao beans used in chocolate all come from the world's rainforest. We need to find a way to make use of these resources without destroying the forest. Rainforests are made up of different layers. Different groups of plants and animals live on the forest floor, in the branches, or in the tree trunks. Compared to a rainforest, a desert is a very tough habitat to live in. Deserts are the driest places in the world, and without rain, few plants can survive in the sandy or rocky soil. Desert plants and animals such as rabbits, foxes, snakes, and lizards have special bodies that help them store water or keep cool. Many animals found different ways to survive in the desert. Some animals only come out in the cold of the night. Desert lizards move quickly over hot surfaces, stopping only in shady places. Many desert animals are pale in color to absorb less heat and to keep them camouflaged. Cacti are some of the most exciting and exotic houseplants you can look after. A container filled with sandy soil and stones is all you need to grow your own cactus garden. Once you have planted your cacti, they will need very little water as they store it in their thick systems, but they love lots of sunshine, so put them in a sunny place. When you go for a swim in the sea, you are part of a very large ecosystem, the oceans. In the oceans, you can find many different habitats, such as the spectacular coral reefs found in warm waters. Most ocean life exists in the top 300 feet of water, where there is some sunlight. Below, in the dark waters of the deep, some very weird and wonderful creatures live. Some creatures, such as fish, squid, and crabs, are an important food source for human beings, but many kinds or species of fish and turtles are in danger because modern fishing boats drag long nets through the water. This gives the animals no chance to escape in the Atlantic Ocean. Numbers are herring. Haddock and cod are very low. Many species of dolphin and whale are also under threat. All sea creatures depend on plants for food. The most important marine plants, called phytoplankton, can only be seen with a microscope. These are eaten by tiny animals called zooplankton. These are then eaten by small fish that are food for larger fish. Amazingly, 100-foot blue whales are also feed on zooplankton called krill. The whales eat over 60 million krill per day. People are destroying habitats all over the world. As cities grow larger or more land is cleared for farms, there is less room for wildlife. Pollution has poisoned many forests. Global warming, the result of the heating of the atmosphere, is destroying coral reefs in the oceans. The activities of human beings are changing the world's climate so fast that some plants and animals are struggling to survive. Perhaps you have noticed change in your area where woods or meadows are being replaced by buildings or roads. When natural habitats like this disappear, so do the wild plants and animals that depend on them. Clearing the rainforest has forced millions of forest people out of their homes. Deforestation in your area may be affecting plants and animals too. When a habitat is destroyed, plants, animals, and people all lose out. Scientists fear that half of the world's wildlife could disappear in the next 50 years. People also depend on healthy habitats for food and fresh water. Many medicines and herbal remedies also come from rare plants. If we destroy their habitats, we will lose them forever. Like other large mammals, such as tigers and pandas, rhinoceros are in great damage from habitat destruction. The woodlands and grasslands that provide these animals for food, water, and shelter are needed by local people for firewood and to grow crops. People who want to protect wildlife are called conservationists. Many have worked with governments to create wildlife parks in various parts of the world. These protect species whose natural habitat has vanished. Other groups are working to stop pollution. New laws are also being made to help protect natural habitats from further damage. There are conservation projects to repair damaged habitats in many local areas. Ask an adult to help you clear the garbage from a pond, canal, or riverbank. This can make a big difference to local wildlife. Creating a meadow area in a local park also creates a perfect habitat for rare wildflowers and insects, like butterflies. Watch for vegetables and fruit with an organic label in stores. This means this food is grown without the use of chemicals. Organic food takes more work, more weeding is done by hand instead of using sprays, but it does not harm wildlife such as birds and butterflies, and it's better for you. You can help wildlife in your area by creating a wildlife garden at home or at school. You can also encourage wildlife by growing plants on a balcony or in a window box. Plants with strong colors and scents will attract butterflies and bees. Insects attract animals and feed on them, such as spiders, birds, and mice. You may even get to visit from a fox. Many people believe that the best way to protect wildlife is to change the way we live. For example, we need energy to cook, to heat our houses, or to drive cars and trains. But the power plants and engines that create most of our energy also create the pollution that damages habitats. If we can learn to save energy or to use cleaner supplies, such as wind farms, there will be less pollution to damage the wildlife around us. We are all part of the natural world around us. Everything we do is linked to it in some way. For example, even if we live in a city, the pollution we cause affects habitats far from where we live. Everyone can help to reduce pollution. We can buy products that are made from renewable sources. We can also make sure that the things we no longer need are recycled. Biome. Our planet can be divided into giant zones called biomes, each with its own climate and ecosystems. Climate is the usual pattern of a weather in a part of the world. Community, the group of plants and animals that live in a particular habitat. Conservation, protecting wildlife from damage. Deciduous, trees that have broad, flat leaves that drop off the branches in fall. Deforestation, to clear a forest of trees. Ecosystem, all the living things in a habitat and the way in which they work together. Environment, the surroundings of any living thing. Equator, the imaginary circle around the Earth halfway between the North and the South Poles. Global warming, an increase in the average temperature worldwide, believed to be caused by pollution. Habitat, a place where particular animals and plants live and grow. Organic, organic plants and animals are grown or reared without the use of chemicals such as pesticides. Plankton, tiny and often microscopic groups of plants or animals that live in the sea. Pollute, to make something dirty with waste or chemicals. Recycling, to use a product over and over again. Species, a group of living things that are very similar to each other and can breed together. Tropical regions, the warmest part of the world, found either side of the equator.